All right. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the country. Uh, this is Scott Fiaschetti, and I'm here with, as always, Brian Shopper.
Hello.
Hey, just want to say welcome to everyone for joining this session of our out of home office hours. And if you're joining the session, you realize that this is our what we're calling our foundational session. And just to get a lay of the land on what we mean by that, so the foundational sessions will typically be about the Insight Suite itself. We'll go through any updates to the Insight Suite, talk about how to use those, and just work through different workflows and how you can go about pulling data. And in particular, we are also doing advanced sessions. So the advanced sessions will be more about the data itself, and it'll be centered around a use case, a member built use case. So if you've been seeing any of the newsletters we have coming out, you know we're going to be doing a use case with members of the Adams Eastern PA team. It's going to be an auto-related use case with Toyota specifically. And what we're going to do today is actually walk through a workflow and how we got to pulling the data for that use case. So today we'll show you how to get the data. Tomorrow we'll talk about how to interpret that data and how do you make decisions with that data. But the other thing we're going to also do today is focus on learning and teaching everyone how to use the Workspace module. So haven't spent a lot of time on that in the past session, so wanted to spend a bunch of time today on showing you how to set up your first project. And we'll actually probably even focus on that for the next session as well, for in the July session, because there'll be a lot more functionality added to that by the time that session comes up. So one thing I always forget to say this, but I'm remembering now. If you do have any questions, please stop and ask us throughout the session anytime. We're going to be tracking those, and we'll try to answer your questions in real time, so it's more relevant and you can get your answer kind of in the moment as much as possible. So again, we're going to walk through changes. We're going to show you how to pull data that you would use to be able to do the use case for tomorrow, and then we're also going to have a special focus on the Workspace module. One thing I always want to say, as we are still in this beta phase, the impression data that you're pulling from the Insight Suite is for non-commercial use. So you can use the Insight Suite to find inventory that is great at reaching particular audiences, that is more efficient at reaching certain audiences, or just get an understanding of the audiences that are in the Insight Suite and how that applies to, again, the inventory itself. Feel free to do that. But when you come down to the fact that you're going to need to pull impression data, that's where you'd go back to the current tools that you're using, whether it's you're getting it from ADS, or you have your own internal tool, or Telmar, etc. And again, as you're exploring the Insight Suite, please continue to do so and provide feedback. So there's a contact us button that Brian, when he does the walkthrough, can point out. It's super helpful for us. We do make changes. We do take all of those comments very seriously and use that to improve the user experience for everybody. So just one just overview slide before I jump into it. If you've never been into the Insight Suite, one of the key things that you'll find, and one of the purposeful ways we built this, is with an audience first approach. So that is not the only way you can start by filtering inventory, but is one of the key ways. And one of the things that's most exciting about the evolution of where we are today, where we are yesterday to where we are today, is that the availability of audiences. There's more than 8,000 different demographic behavioral profiles available across any DMA, across any location that we're going to be searching. So that's one of the key things, and one of the things we're really excited about, and one of the ways that's helping us evolve as an industry. So just quickly to talk about some of the recent updates in terms of features and functionality, I want to just walk through some of those. And what you'll notice is a lot of the changes today in the most recent update were in the Places module. So if you joined last session, there was a big update in the Places module from what was previously there, becoming a lot more comprehensive, a lot more just efficient at filtering and finding audience. But so now we're actually getting down to much more granular way to search and refine your different audiences. And we'll actually walk through these when we're in the tool itself. So the first part is the ability to search and refine by industry. So you can easily just click and find, pick an industry. Example here, it's looking at hotels. But then also the ability to search by brands and click on and off different brands. So once you do your general search of whether it's hotels, you can actually say, well, you know what, I did hotels. I just want to look at Holiday Inn, the Express, and Holiday Inn, the major brand Holiday Inn itself. So you can click on and off the different aspects as you start to narrow in a little bit further. And then also filter by market. So let's say you're looking at the hotels and you want to just find out, let's filter for all the hotels in this example here in Buckhead, in Atlanta. And then also another way to geographically limit around specific locations is you can do put in an address. So you use limit around the narrow results by miles around the specified address. So this Mercedes-Benz Stadium, maybe I'm going there for a game and I want to know what are the hotels that are around that area as well. So you can put in a radii around that. And then similarly, you can draw a polygon around a filter. Sorry, here, I think there was something wrong with that. So you can actually draw a polygon around that. I think the image isn't quite right there, but you can use it to draw a polygon. So you would see the button on the left, or you can do a radius around it as well. And again, we'll show all those examples for you actually in the tool and show you how to use it. And without further ado, I'm going to hand that off to Brian, and we'll do a quick walkthrough of the Insight Suite. So we'll do an overview so you can get a lay of the land, but then we'll show you, like we said, how to pull that data. I just wanted to check too, Brian, are there any questions that
No,
popped up?
No, not yet.
Okay, great. Definitely feel free to ask us questions as we're going through. I know this beginning part's a little bit overview stuff, but want to make sure everybody's feeling comfortable and that can ask us some questions. So I'm going to hand it off to Brian. He'll do a walkthrough of the Insight Suite, and I'll provide a little voiceover here and there.
Okay. So hopefully that's shown right. I think we should be seeing my screen now. So this is the Insight Suite. When you first log into the Insight Suite, if you're new and if you've never done it before, this is the landing page for the Insight Suite. You get dropped right into the Explore module, where we'll be spending about half our time today talking through how to do some things in here and what everything is. And we'll also take a look at some of the other modules. And so if you go to this home button right here, this gives you an overview of what each of the individual modules within the Insight Suite are. So as Scott mentioned earlier, today we're going to be talking about the Workspace module and doing an example within there as well. And that's campaign planning, and will ultimately be market planning a little bit down the line.
Yep. Yeah, so this space, and again, once we get into it, we can talk a little bit more about it, but this is an area, once the tool becomes, the tool of the industry, so to speak, this is where you will start to set up your projects, start for particular clients or specific campaigns, and we'll show you how to do that, as we said, in a few minutes.
So like Scott just said, we're going to basically split our time. Half of today's agenda is basically work with the Workspace. The other half is to show some of the features of the Explore module and get people caught up if they're not familiar. So we'll spend a good chunk of time in the Explore module as well. The Places module we will also dive into. That is the points of interest, different businesses, locations that you can utilize and bring into context with inventory in the Explore module. And then the report section is coming soon, and that's post-campaign analytics, charts, graphs, things like that. So I'm going to head back to the Explore module to start. And I just want to, I don't know if I clicked. There we go. I just want to basically go through and do an overview of the different pieces of the Explore module for those who are unfamiliar or who might need a refresher. And we'll basically walk through how we're going to do something in the Insight Suite. And then in a little bit, I will do an example that is linked to our use case for tomorrow. And so we'll see how to use that both in the Explore module and in the Workplace module. So let's just give this a second to come up. And again, as we said earlier, if you do have any questions along the way, the questions widget, we'll keep an eye on that as we go through.
Great. There we go.
Okay, so across the top here, these are the, before we even do that, sorry. Everybody, if you can, just take a look over here at the right-hand side. The inventory summary list is, it shows you metrics of whatever your inventory filter is for right now. So because we haven't done anything in the Insight Suite, all we've done is log in. We're looking at all the audited inventory in the US. So for all the inventory, this is the weekly metric overview. And you'll notice as we apply audiences and as we change the filters and as we get more narrow with our inventory selection, these numbers change and reflect different things. So as we're working, keep an eye on that and you'll see things change as we go through. So the first tab here, Define Target, there's two things within this. As Scott mentioned earlier, the tool is designed around an audience first approach, but that's not the only way you can go through it. It's a very fluid program in how you go through. The first thing that you see when you click the Define Target tab is Select Audience. And these are broken down into three major categories. Population is largely census-based and demographic level things, including household profiles and behaviors and things like that. Consumer profiles is spending and buying behaviors, psychographics, media consumption, a big amount of different categories. I think this is by far a large majority of that 8,000 number that Scott was mentioning. They're broken down into these different categories here. If you haven't, definitely take some time to explore these because there's a lot of really great audiences in there. And then finally, the Prism Premiere. Both the consumer profile data and the Prism Premiere comes through our partners at Claritas. Prism Premiere is their segmentation product. Every household in the US is broken down into one of these 68 audience segments. And if you want some more information about what each of these are, you can come over to this feedback button. I think Scott mentioned something about this earlier. This is a great place if you have any questions. You can do a little search and try to find an article about it. Or if you have a question, you can send it to us with Contact Us here. So for this one, say I want to know what Heartlanders is. Let's say 46 Heartlanders. 46 Heartlanders. And for every single one of these Prism Premiere segments, we have a little, just a little overview article about what it is, sort of the demographic range and all that. So if you're ever curious about what those are, you can look there. So those are the three main components of Select Audience. And if you have one that you want to save for later, one that you use a lot, you can save it and it'll appear here in my saved audiences. I have 18 plus. So let's move on to Assign Market. This is where you'll select the market that you want to start with. So this is at the DMA level. And this sets your base audience and also excludes all of the inventory outside of that DMA. And we'll use this a bit later. You'll see in practice how that works. Filter inventory. There's a very rich combination of ways that you can filter out inventory and get it down from this almost 420,000 down to as few units as you'd like. You can do it by media type. There's some within each of these subcategories. So say I wanted to go for posters. I know that's a freestanding unit and I don't want digital posters. I just want regular posters. There's a big amount of different types in here. And as you filter, different markets have certain media types that others don't. So you'll see this updates as you filter with the other filters as well. So you can filter by media type, media attributes. So say you want only east and west facing, or you want only panels of a certain size, you can do that as well. Operators, for our example today, we'll pick a specific operator based on our use case for tomorrow. It'll be atoms. So I'll pick atoms and it'll only filter for atoms inventory. Location, you can do a couple of different things with this. As I mentioned earlier, in Define Target, you can set the DMA. Here you can get a little bit more specific. You can do CBSA, county, zip code, and I believe that's it for right now. But you can get more specific with your geographies. Specific units by ID. If you have an Excel sheet or an email that you have a group of units you wanted to target specifically, you know exactly what you're looking for, you can just paste those right in either as Geopath panel IDs or as plant IDs, and it'll validate them for you, make sure you have everything right, and then you can apply that and it'll exclude everything else. Thresholds, say you have an audience applied, just as an example, you can use these sliders and exclude inventory that do not meet these criteria. So target comp percentage, say you wanted to meet everything above the average for a certain audience variable that you applied, so you could just see whatever the target comp percentage was here and adjust it to be above the average there. And then you can load in some saved things, inventory sets and scenarios from other projects. And I'll show you how to save things like that later. Layers and display options is largely map level things. So what layers you would like within your map. And actions is to save and clear and print and just do a couple things like that for mapping purposes. And we'll go through most of these, if not all of them, in our example today. So yeah, if there are any questions, you just send them along and we'll get along to those. But I want to just go and jump right into our example. So as Scott mentioned, we are doing a use case tomorrow in our advanced level session with Tony Chaffee and Allison Rupi from Adams in the Lehigh Valley area. And so I want to basically just mirror that scenario today. It's a great opportunity to get a look at the data ahead of time and
just show everyone how you can pull that data.
Yeah, exactly.
Like tomorrow we'll actually talk about the interpretation of it. So just try to tie the two sessions together a little bit tighter. So
let's see, where are we going to start? Let me see. I just checking my notes here. So let's go to the places first. For our example tomorrow, I know that we're doing a regional auto dealership, and that's what we're going to work with today. So let's take a look in the places module, and this will give us a chance to look at the module and get a feel for it itself, but also pull some things that we're going to be using for our example. So this is the Explore module, the Places module right here. It looks fairly similar to the Explore module when you first log in. All these little purple dots here are actually places. These are individual locations spread across the US, and as you zoom in, you'll see different things and you can filter, and that's what we're going to start with today. So I know that we are going to take a look at Toyota dealerships. The car dealer we're dealing with tomorrow is, sorry, can't think and type.
Yep. No, it's a collection of regional dealerships.
Yes.
So there's more than one dealer. So it's a group, a dealer group that we're going to dealing with tomorrow.
So when you first search for something in the Places module, you start at the national level. So let's just take a look at that. That's just kind of a spread of Toyota dealers across the U.S. But we know exactly where we want to be, and so let's get more specific with it. Before you even do anything by location, there's a few different ways you can filter out things. Say I only want to look at automobile dealers. So that's part of your filter you want to do. So you can do that, and it'll exclude ones that are not part of that. You want, for this example, new or used car. I'm not going to do either of those, but you could do that. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually filter out based on different categories and industry and things like that. But one of the newer features, as Scott mentioned earlier, is the refine by location. So I'm going to do that as well. I know, my mistake. I know that the dealerships we're looking for are somewhere in the Philly DMA, but I know more specifically they're in the Allentown, Pennsylvania CBSA. So let's start there. Let's see, Allentown. Here we go. Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton. It's going to hit refine. Look at that. Perfect. Let's take a look at this area. You can see the outline of the CBSA here. I think I went a little too far. Perfect. Looks like 3. I think it said 4 before I zoomed in, and I think that's just because I think this one shares a lot with a Ford dealer. But so this is one way that you could refine by location. Another way you could do it, say you didn't know what CBSA it was, or you didn't know anything like that. Say you just kind of had a vague idea of the area. Say I know it's sort of near Allentown. Maybe I know roughly within like a 20-mile radius or 25 miles of where Allentown is. So I'm gonna clear out my other location filter. Let me just make sure it's still doing Toyota. Yep, still Toyota. I know that it's probably within 20 miles or so of Allentown. So let's take a look. Let's do roughly 20 miles. Sounds good to me. There we go. There's those 3 again. And as Scott mentioned earlier, we can also do a polygon if we wanted to. Or say you knew somewhere, within a radius of a certain address, you could do that as well. So what I'm looking at the list here, I don't want that Ford dealer. We just want those 3 Toyota dealers. And so now what we can do is actually save this as a place set and then bring it into the Explore module and use it with our inventory. So I would hit save. I'm going to do a new place set. And then we just, call it Lehigh Toyota. And you can just save it whatever you want. I'm not going to because I already saved it earlier, but you can call it whatever you'd like to. And we're going to head back to the Explore module now.
And as you're heading over to that, there was a question about is the total number of digitals based on each structure or each spot on a digital board. And it's actually what's in there, or it's based on the terminology we're using now is it's frame. So it's the actual frame of the board itself. So essentially kind of the structure could have more than one frame. So it's actually the frame that where the advertisement can be placed. So just to answer that question, hopefully that helps.
And again, questions are always really appreciated. So if you have any, don't hesitate to ask them. So now we're back in the Explore module. We haven't done anything else in the Explore module besides talk about it. So let's go through. As an example from start to finish, let's go through. So I know, as we were saying just a second ago, that this is in the Philadelphia DMA, so I'm going to start there. So define target, assign market, and I'm just going to search Philadelphia. There we go. Apply. And you'll notice you see all these teal dots. They're going to disappear because we're filtering them out, and it'll place a bubble, right there, over the Philly DMA. And before I add an audience, I just want to zoom into that so you can take a look what the tool looks like when you get closer to some inventory. There you go, they're starting to come in now. So you can see this array of different colors. And again, if this is your first time logging in, you might think, what is this? What are these? So this key over here, we actually have this. And this explains within whatever market you're in what the different media types are. So bulletins orange, posters yellow, street furniture is this green color, and then walls and murals. It's kind of hard to see, but I think there are some right in this central Philly area. If it's in the map key, it must be somewhere in the DMA. So that's that look right there. So we've set our market as Philadelphia. Let's go back, select audience. So for this example here, there's a couple different targets that we might want to look at. We know that they're trying to focus on their Tundra trucks, so pickup truck potential owners, and they're also trying to look for Camry campaigns, so that would be their mid-sized car. So we can do that. We can do either of those and take a look at how they look. So I'm going to go to Consumer Profiles. And there's a couple different ways you can explore. You can go by category or you can just search. In this case, I'm just going to do pickup because we want to take a look for, so household plans to buy, new, use, or lease in the next 12 months, pickup truck. So we're looking at prospective pickup truck buyers in the next year. So let's take that and we're going to apply our audience. And if you're ever curious what you have applied to your map at any given time, These pills down here at the bottom show you exactly what you're looking at. So audience and the market. And actually, same thing over here for audience and market. It'll show you over here as well.
And since you're there, you'll see how the metrics are continuing
yes,
to change
absolutely.
as well. As you're filtering for location, as you're filtering for just narrowing down the inventory, you'll see how those metrics continue to evolve and change. And it helps guide you as you're at least planning it at the broader level.
Yes, absolutely. And I think earlier when we filtered for the Philly DMA, our target and our total impressions were the same because we hadn't set an additional audience target. But now you can see the amount of impressions in a given week that come from our target, the target comp percentage, the index, and as Scott was saying, these will change as we filter even further.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an audience selected, we have the market at a DMA level selected, and for example today we're going to be using only atoms as the operator. So we'll go filter inventory operators, and let's find atoms. There they are. Apply. So take a look, you'll see all these will filter out for non-atoms inventory. Just give it a second. It's actually already done the calculations over here. So aside from, it looks like one unit down here, most of our units that we're going to be talking about today are up in this Allentown area, which is perfect. I know that's exactly where these dealerships are. So let's just zoom in a little bit closer.
And I also think it's of note too, you can see how the target comp and the comp index have changed as well.
Yeah, I think it was 3.7
compared to the
or something.
entire market, this broad setting, and granted we're looking at all of that inventory, it is kind of efficient at reaching that pickup truck buyer audience. It's more efficient than the market, than the area overall.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And again, a little feature explanation for those who might be new. Notice the way these pieces of inventory look on the map right now. Say you want to get a little bit closer. At a certain level of zoom, you actually start to see directionality. Once this loads in, you'll see the way that each of these units face. And
yeah. No, just going back to almost the question before, right?
Excuse me.
It'll show you the directionality and the number of facings on there.
Mm-hmm. So for example, this one here looks like a north-south facing, 2 facings. This one is facing west only. Let's click on it. Let's take a look at what this might be. So for every unit in the system, when you click on the unit itself, you get a little overview card of the. Move over so we can center that a little bit better. You get an overview card of the unit itself, sort of at a broad level what it is, where it is. But let's click here for more details. Let's get a better look at it. So here's the photo sheet. This is where it is on the map. Again, some more overview of the specifics of the unit itself. And then we have top zip codes and top market areas. And this is at this is showing the top zip codes and DMAs where this audience comes from.
Yeah, where this unit is drawing audience from.
Yeah, the footprint of the audience. Should we take a look?
Sure.
Let's do a quick look, map it. This is a really cool feature. I like this. A lot of people like to see this one. It's a really cool way to actually visualize out where the audience for a particular board is coming from. So.
And I think one of the things this is really helpful for, and we'll see again as we get into this tomorrow, as you zoom in, you'll see that, a lot of times these units, even though they're in a location, right, and they're drawing audience from a variety of different zip codes, and some are, drawing more audience from zip codes that it's not even located in. And that's, I think, a compelling story when we start to talk about out of home. And now we have the actual data and the way to visualize that data to show and prove it. And you can see with this example, there's a number of zip codes that are in that deeper purple where it's drawing audience from. So it's not just the fact that it is in the zip code where it is, that has the deeper purple, but there's other zip codes that it's also drawing a significant amount of audience from as well.
Absolutely. So that's that feature right there. And at the bottom of the inventory details sheet, see a little bit of an overview of the metrics, how it performs against the target and the total and all that. And you can export this as a PDF. Say you want just this as a quick overview of this inventory unit, you can do that. But let's hop back into our example. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we can see some more of the area. Sorry, just one second.
And as you're waiting for it to come back into focus, some of the next things you want to do is just you would want to actually filter this down, right, to the appropriate level of inventory set for the use case, whether that's based on reaching a TRP goal or a lot of times in a local case study, it might be a number of units or things like that. So this is kind of the next phase of how you start to use this section.
Yeah, and as Scott was saying, there are a few different ways you could do that. There's different metrics here you can sort by, and you can use this drop down and see the top 25, 50, or 100 that meet whatever this sort criteria is. You can also use this inventory summary list down in the bottom, or inventory list down in the bottom left-hand corner, and it'll filter with similar ways. You can do it that way. But so once you've netted down, say for this example here, we were looking at a group of 18 units. Say you've filtered out for the ones you don't want, and you have your 18 or whatever it is, you can come over here to this Save As and click Save as New Inventory Set.
And also, as Brian's doing that, just to add a little more context as well, you can also just export that as a CSV file. There's an option in that drop-down menu. And maybe there's internal tools that you would use or a certain way you would like to pull that data in to do the filtering process on your own side. But there are tools within the Insight Suite that you can do that, like Brian said. You can filter by metric and filter down by top 25, top 50, etc. Or there's a table view in the bottom that you can pull up and start to filter that way. So, sorry.
No. So, you can name it whatever you'd like to, add some notes. I'm not going to do this because I already went through and I pulled out some units that we wanted to take a look at. But so that was for the pickup truck potential buyers. And say you wanted to keep the same units. Say I had my 18 here that I had filtered out for whatever it is, and you wanted to take a look at a different audience target. If you go back to define target and then select audience, you can just find another audience and hit apply, and the units will stay the same, and it'll just switch to that audience. So I've done a few different things. I'm going to actually clear out my map visually just so we're kind of a blank slate. We'll give that a second to catch up. So like I said, I've done a few different things. We found our place set of those 3 Toyota dealers. We found a group of 18 units for pickup truck potential buyers. And then I also found just 18 plus was another audience that I did. And I picked a group of 18 units that worked well for that target. So let's take a look at all those. So once you've done all this work and you've saved inventory sets and you've saved place sets, you can actually bring it all back together into a map and save that and export it and do a lot of things like that. So layers and display options. Let's go to my layers because these are different layers I'm going to add back onto the map. So let's start with the place set. Here it is, Toyota Motor Group, Pennsylvania locations. And you hit the arrow to add it over to your selected layers. And if you click on the icon, you can actually change the color and the icon itself. So I know Toyota's got a nice red color. Let's get that a little bit brighter. And we'll leave that. We'll leave the little place marker. And then we'll go to my inventory sets and we'll find those. I think they're somewhere down at the bottom. Here we go. Toyota Tri-State. So let's do the pickup truck buyers first. And I'll set them as a nice blue color. And then this is my sample buy of just 18 plus. We'll leave that as purple. So I'm going to hit apply view. And you'll actually see these come into view on our map as map elements, which you can then export and save and send out or use in a presentation.
Yeah, exactly. So this is ultimately letting you create a custom map to share with clients or advertisers, or agencies, depending on which side you're working on. And so it just allows you those capabilities. So you don't have to pull into another tool and map things yourself in a different way.
You just zoom out, give ourselves a little bit better view. A little too far. That's okay. So as this is kind of catching up with me, come back. So from what we can see here, you can see these 3 red dealerships here. Purple was the 18 plus audience target, and then this blue color was the potential pickup truck buyers. And it's just interesting to see the ways that different audiences are spread across the exact same market.
Yeah, and how when you look at behaviors versus demographics, how that might lead you to different inventory selection.
Sure,
right?
these people could be very similar in demographic ways, but they're
in terms of the inventory that's best at reaching them, 18 plus was kind of across there, and there were other reasons why that sample set, which we'll talk about tomorrow, may be more clustered around the dealerships. But as you look at if they're really trying to reach Tundra or potential Tundra buyers, you may want to have a different inventory set, and this could be used to start to have those kinds of conversations with potential advertisers. So, and again, like I said, we'll talk about some of these topics and issues in tomorrow's session. But I wanted to just show that really quickly, how you can quickly map and how you can use that to kind of further discussion or create the story that you're trying to tell with the Insight Suite. So.
And just one more thing before we head over to the Workspace module. Say you wanted to export this, you could save this view. So say you wanted to call this map up later, you can save it and name it, and it'll just pop right back up exactly the same as you see it now. And if you hit print view, you can print as a PDF and then use that in your presentations and things like that. You can also add in layers and display options, you can add custom logos and text if you want to make the map even more customized. All right, so let's head over to the Workspace.
Yeah, and as I said before, so this ultimately becomes the place, maybe your central area where you're setting up different projects for different clients, and again, it depends on how you want to use this section. Maybe you have kind of a broad client project set up, or maybe you're setting it up for different specific projects for different clients. So you can, Brian, we've set up an example one here for Brian to kind of walk through and talk you through. But again, I want to show you actually how to do that as well. So we'll actually create one together in a moment.
Yes. So let's take a look at the one I created. So there, sort of structure-wise, the first thing you'll create is a project. So that's what this is here. And within that, there are 3 separate scenarios. So let's just take a look at one of the ones I did. Let's take a look at the, before we even get in there. So I clicked on the project name itself. Let me click this little edit icon. So you can name it whatever you want. You can give it a sort of a note or a subheading here, and then you can tag it with a bunch of different tags that you might use frequently. So say you're doing a lot for Toyota, or you do a lot for prospecting or something. Say that was one of the tags, and then you can look through those later on and find all your projects that have a specific number of tags.
So maybe over the course of time, you're doing a lot of work with Tri-State Toyota. Maybe you want to, this is the prospecting, and then it becomes the spring campaign, and then it becomes the fall campaign. And so you can kind of use that to describe everything. And then also maybe there's a variety of ones that are for the Tundra or for Camry. So you can just tag them and say, I want to look at all of my Tundra projects that I've done, or all my Camry, or all my prospecting. We've done an auto prospecting one before, and we want to use that example to now pitch Ford, etc. So you can start to use that to sort and filter projects, because again, as you start to use this area, I would imagine there's a lot of projects that you would be building up. So it's just a way to kind of quickly sort and get to the group or type of project that you want to reference.
Yes, so let's take a look at one specific scenario. So let's just pick up truck buyers, potential pickup truck buyers. So let's click on that one. And so these are actually the 3 dealerships that we were working with earlier. This is our place set right here. And so we're just bringing that into our scenario as well. And let's go to inventory, and we'll take a look what's here. So our audience is the same audience we used earlier, those who plan to buy a pickup truck in the next 12 months. Market, this is at a DMA level, so I have the Philly DMA set. And so here are some of the plan delivery goals, and you can set your own goals and just see how it stacks up and add or subtract things to sort of meet these goals. I'm pulling in one of those inventory sets that we made, the inventory set of those 18 units for pickup truck buyers. And you can see just some of the metrics here. We've got reach as well. And you can just see all of the units that we were looking at earlier pulled into this one scenario. So I guess what I found to be one of the best practices for this is, do your work in the Explorer, find the inventory sets that you want, make the place sets that you want to use, and then you can organize everything here into a specific scenario.
And then you can narrow down. It's really about getting it to a close-in place set or inventory set that you're feeling comfortable with, and then you could add and subtract fairly easily from here. So if you're trying to tweak it and refine it to that last final set that you might want to recommend, this is kind of a nice place that you can start doing that, because you can see ultimately if you scroll down right, you can, as you add and take out inventory, your reach number will change, and you'll be able to recalculate all of those metrics in that purple bar below. So
let's take a look. Let's recreate one of these.
Let's recreate a project at a high level.
Back one level. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna make a new project and call it.
And as Brian's just typing in kind of the basics of it, this also is an area. So right now, where it says, you see that turquoise box that says create new inventory plan. Ultimately, this is where you will also use the market average tool. So our old plan functionality will be incorporated into this section, and that's why we're probably going to focus on this for the next the July webinar as well, because that functionality should be in there by then, and we'll show you how to use that within the workspace as well.
All right, so all we've done so far is we just made a project. I'm fine with the name. You can add a description. Lehigh Valley prospecting. Tags, Camry, Tundra, and Toyota. Anything. They could be anything you want. So I'll save those. And let's add a scenario. So there's nothing in here right now. We're going to add a scenario, and let's do exactly the one I looked at earlier. Potential pickup truck buyers. So, I think I clicked out of it. So this is
and just to the terminology of scenario too, right? So it is just the different sets of inventory that you're using to try to achieve a goal. So maybe one scenario is all bulletins, one's all posters, one's a mix, or one's the pickup truck scenario, or one's the Camry scenario. So it's really custom to whatever you're trying to do with that project, or whatever you're trying to do with that client, so to speak. So this one in particular, Brian's using it as pickup truck buyers.
And so we're assigning it to the project that we're in right here. Could potentially assign it to a different project if we wanted to, but so let's create this scenario. All right, so let's start with places. We can actually just add our place set from earlier, apply. And so these are those 3 dealerships that we're looking at. That's the dealership group right there. And let's head to the inventory tab, audience. I already have this audience here, but say you don't have it pulled into your workspace. It basically just mirrors the select audience tab of the Explore module, set up the exact same way: population, consumer profiles, and Prism Premiere. But so say for this one, you didn't have it saved already, so you just need to go pick up, and it would be this one. And basically what it'll have you do is you can name it anything you want here. It would have you save it to your saved audiences, and then you can apply it. So I've got it here, so I'm just going to apply it here. And then, again, this is at the DMA level, so I know that this is within the Philadelphia DMA. Delivery goals, we can add one of those later if we want.
Yeah, let's come back to that point.
Yeah.
So we'll load in the inventory, and you'll see how once you load in the inventory, your the plan's metrics will start to load in, and then you could create goals against that.
filter inventory to add, or find inventory to add. So we can do either by ID, or in this case, let's just do one of those inventory sets that we did earlier. And I'm going to search because I already saved these. So let's see, sample by, there we go, truck buyers. So that was that set of 18. So let's add that.
So just that, and again, as Brian's doing that, if you didn't have your set already built, or let's say you're working at an agency and you've gotten back sets of inventory from multiple operators, and you've kind of filtered that down to a set of 20 or 30 or whatever it is, you can actually copy those Geopath ID numbers
Yes.
and actually
Paste them right in.
Copied them and pasted them right in.
Yep,
at Geopath
right
ID.
there.
So that's a way to kind of set up, use this as the entire kind of launching off point.
Yeah.
For planning, for setting up your projects as well.
Yeah, I know I said earlier, I find it helpful if you do work ahead of time, but you don't have to.
Right. No, I agree. I tend to do it that way as well. Set it up and explore module and then bring it into the workspace.
But so those are the ones that we want here. I'm just going to calculate the reach for the group. And if you wanted to, say you decide you don't want a few of these, you could deselect some of them and save that as a different inventory set over here. You could save that as a new inventory set and then use that one instead.
But it would recalculate on the fly.
Yeah.
You don't have to load it back in. It would just recalculate it for you.
And I'm just going to hit save scenario. And when you do that, actually, it populates your the planned delivery goals right up here. And say we wanted to set something else, like we wanted a goal of, 10 TRPs or something like that. We can add that as a note for ourselves for later, and come back and add different things, take away different things, and see how we can reach our goal with these planning goals right here. But I think that's just about it.
Yep.
So we'll jump back into the...
Yeah, so if you can go back to, actually, there's one question.
Oh, sure.
About finding the information on bike share and where that inventory is, so bike kiosks. So
sure.
to go back to the explore module, you may have to clear out
Mhm.
the inventory, but we can just show it as a. Actually, you probably would need to clear out. So it is actually in the filter inventory section.
Yeah.
As it comes back, Brian will go in, and it's in that top area of filtering where you would look at media types, and that would be in the furniture category. And as you go down, as you keep continuing to filter down, you would see bike kiosks will show up there.
I'm just gonna bear with me for a second. I just want to reset everything so we can take a look, and I'll show where that actually is.
Right. And then there was also another question about getting mobile inventory into the platform. So I just wanted to say, for that, you would reach out to us. Brian Rue heads up our transit, or you can actually reach out to us at geekout@geopath.org, and we can kind of go there as well. That geekout@geopath.org. If you're on the call and you don't know what that is, that's our digital helpline where you can get help on any needs like that. So just click down on
Yep.
furniture,
So
do the
filter inventory, media types, and then furniture, and it'll do a drop down.
non-digital.
And non-digital. I don't know if I clicked it. There we go.
And then scroll down and you'll see
Bike pillars, bike kiosks, right there.
So hopefully all that's there. Cool. So hopefully that helped with a couple of questions that we got. And again, if you have any other questions, please do reach out. Let's jump back to the deck. And there's just a few last minute things that I want to tell everybody about. So again, as you do have questions, please send them over. But I want to just remind everybody, about the upcoming session. So we've mentioned this, I know, a number of times on this call. So just want to let you know that we are going to be doing the advanced session tomorrow, where you'll see how we're going to kind of use the data that we've set up today. Also, just teeing up the next set of training sessions. So again, they're always going to be on the last Thursday and Friday of every month. And the foundational session will be the Thursday session from 2 to 3, and the advanced sessions will be on the Fridays from 12 to 1. Again, the advanced sessions will always focus around moving forward a use case and how to use the data. So less about how to use the Insight Suite and more about how to interpret and use the data. In case you missed it, Dylan and I did a session last Thursday talking about how impressions have evolved with the new data that we have access to, and so we really broke that down into kind of what does that mean for traffic counts, what does that mean for pedestrian volume, what does that mean for the VAI. So it was a really good session. You can check it out there. That's a link. But I'm also going to say you can also go to our website and just go to the Geek Out tab and scroll down, and it's that very first link right here where it says Geopath Insights, how impressions are evolving. Also, too, if you hadn't, last month's advanced session was another really great session where Enza Quixote from McDonald Media sat with us, and we really talked about how would you use data from the Insight Suite from the agency side. So when you're planning a project in the pre-planning and planning stage, how would you use that? We actually took an old use case, this one down here that we did in March, which was from an operator side, and we're like, well, how would you do that from the agency side? So it's a nice kind of complementary use case to that session. So if there are no other questions, again, just want to say thank you. Again, if you do have questions post-webinar, please feel free to reach out to us at geekout@geopath.org. Otherwise, just want to say thank you to everybody for joining, and hopefully we'll see you all back again tomorrow. Great. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Great.
Cool. And let me just stop that.